young lady. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Representative. It's a pleasure to meet you.
I'm sure it is.
My name is Sara Dudley. I represent the Protection for Animal Society.
Protection for Animal Society,
and the
okay.
Disaster Animal Relief Rescue Team. I'm here to talk to you about SB 100, which recently passed in the Senate. This is our fact sheet.
Why are we talking about this one?
It provides disaster planning for animals, and it's currently in your committee.
It is?
It is.
Is this on my committee?
It just got here, but I did leave the stuff on your desk yesterday.
It did just get here, and we are eager to get it
I'm
right
sorry, young
out.
lady. This is the first I'm hearing about this, so you're going to have to start from scratch.
I
know
absolutely-
nothing about this.
Terrific. That's what I'm here to do, is to tell you about it.
Fantastic.
Well, when disaster strikes and there's no plan for animals, the results can be catastrophic to our community, to our animals, to animal owners, and expensive for the state. The federal government recognized this in part with the Federal Pets Act in 2007.
Why are we doing this again? I thought they took care of this.
Because the Federal Pets Act is limited in certain ways. One, it only covers companion and service animals. It does not take into account some pretty significant threats to our livestock and our water supply.
Absolutely.
Also, it doesn't provide any specifics. It says the states and local government must have a plan, but it doesn't tell you what this plan should contain.
Unfunded mandates.
Well, it actually does provide some funding, which is terrific.
Keep talking.
Yeah,
One thing I like, it's funding.
especially federal funding, right? It doesn't come out of our budget. So,
And PAC funding.
and what?
PAC funding.
Oh, well, that's another terrific one. So the Federal Pets Act sets up a small fund to provide for eligible expenses regarding companion and service animals in the event of a federally declared disaster. So first of all, a specific exclusion is state and local disasters, which are, of course, important to us, but maybe not to the federal
But
government.
it covers state and local expenses, but just only if it's federally declared?
Exactly.
Okay.
Whereas SB 100, which I can get into a little bit more detail, is going to include some funding for our local emergencies.
And
which
where's
are
that funding coming from?
a limited licensing scheme. When you license an animal, when you register an animal in the state, you'll pay a very small fee, almost like registering a car, but significantly less expensive. And it will go directly into a fund that is specifically set up, the CARES Fund, and it's in my bill, to provide small startup costs. In addition, if there is a federal disaster and it relates to companion or service animals, we can apply for some of that funding to be returned to us through the federal government, which helped us actually in two ways.
Fantastic.
Well, one, it covers our companion and service animals because we're going to get that funding back for them.
Sure.
But also that frees up more money for us to spend on our livestock and other animals if necessary.
Because that's, what's your constituency? Do you have voters in my district?
We have 5,000 registered members in your district, including actually Beverly Sang, who shares a building.
Friends with dear old Clarice, the conscience of the underdog family.
Well, it's interesting we come to that because problem with disaster planning is sort of highlighted with what happened in the building where your wife works. As you may know, a flood in a farm nearby caused contamination of the water supply.
The hell I heard about that.
Now, that was flooding from a single farm, and it caused contamination of the business district, including, I guess, ironically, a
clean water.
a clean water. So think about what could happen if you have 1,000 cattle that panic, break out of their enclosure, there's no plan for them, there's no evacuation plan, and get into a reservoir.
This gets into a recurring nightmare of mine. I have stampeding cattle, but
Well,
that's,
it could-
I
yeah.
understand that, but so the cattleman, so this would then, the cattleman would be for this? Because that's, I'm sorry, just being honest, like, I'm a Democrat, I've been elected 11 times, like, all you puppy huggers, they're not going to, who else are they going to vote for? These Republican livestockers, I really need to keep the cattlemen happy. So are they going to be on board with this? So what's this actually do for them?
Our primary sponsor is Senator Jones, and he is the head of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
He is.
The act,
That brings up
Yeah.
a very good point. What's your organization called again?
this is, I represent two, actually, Protection for Animal Society and the Disaster
Man,
Relief.
are those the people we've been getting these emails from on 200?
No, I don't think it's that group. They've been coming from all over the place.
I've been
I
getting
don't
some
recognize
just
that name.
alarming messages.
About
200. That bill, we had a slaughterhouse burned down in our district.
I know.
And so these people are having to truck their animals all over creation, and my wife's up in arms about it. The greenhouse gas is being spent. So we're trying to get this mobile slaughter thing to go just take care of this at the source, and all you animal people are just hair on fire about it.
Well, actually, I think that we can help you with H200, and I think it folds in
Because
very
it's
nicely.
in Jones's committee, right?
Yeah, well, not just that. When animals aren't provided for, and that was my, and in a disaster, something like a slaughterhouse burning down could certainly happen. It is going to affect our livestock. There's going to be an oversupply. It's going to lead to death, disease, starvation, because if there's any break in the processing chain. SB 100 will provide a plan for animals that could even include, when it includes livestock, trucking them to other parts of the state, and this will relate back to H200, trucking them to other parts of the state for processing or somehow accommodating them so that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But mobile slaughter could also be part of the solution. I think it could be ultimately more humane to slaughter the animals when it's time to be slaughtered than to have them be overcrowded, not have the food and water they need, to live out the rest of their lives. So I think Senator Jones is our primary sponsor, and I think we could come to the table regarding H200 because he's eager to move this out of your committee.
One hand washes the other, as they say.
Well, we could hopefully set up a meeting.
That
I
would be
anxious to facilitate that.
So so you say it's funded, right? Who's for and who's against this? I need to make a pile. I do things on piles here.
Well, the American Red Cross has publicly supported us.
That's good.
Part of the solution in our bill is having a committee of experts to draft the plans, since we already mentioned the federal government kind of leaves us hanging in that regard. To have a registry of qualified nonprofit partners to assist our first responders, and of course the fund. The American Red Cross fits into the first part. They're going to be sitting on our committee, so they've given us our support. I think you'll find when you read the bill that it's a broad-ranging coalition of mostly public health and safety experts, a state veterinarian, agriculture.
Vets are for this?
Oh, the state veterinarian is going to be on our committee, absolutely. The state veterinarian in Indiana just last month, regarding our recent polar vortex, made a statement that their state's livestock are being threatened by the propane shortages in their state due to the freeze. Poultry and pigs are very sensitive to heat, to cold. They can't heat their barns, and they can't keep the animals clean enough for slaughter.
Well, if they can do it in Indiana, we always say the state of bliss is like a thinking man's Indiana. So if they can do it there, I don't see. So who's against it then? It seems like such a great idea. Who can possibly be against this?
Well, that's a terrific question. I think that we addressed the issue with livestock. As you mentioned, that cattlemen might have initially thought that this was going to be a negative, but I think when they see it's going to help them and that we're taking their interests into account, it's going to be a positive. The American Red Cross is supporting us. Pet owners obviously like the idea of getting assistance with their animals, including mandating in the bill, and this is free, that they be allowed to evacuate with their pets and shelter with them. I can't imagine who
Sorry,
wouldn't.
we have a meeting in about 2 minutes.
Let's just walk through the mechanics one more time, because I'm a little fuzzy on the math. So you've got these federal, you guys make up a plan, and there's money to get that plan made, but then when something goes wrong, you're going to have 75% of the money coming from the feds for the puppies and kitties.
Not exactly.
Okay.
We're going to have a committee that's a partnership between mostly government agencies and a few nonprofits that are going to draft the plan for mostly protocols for our state and plans for our cities. We're going to have a registry. The EMA is going to be the lead agency. It's the Emergency Management Agency.
Sure.
It's going to be the lead agency on this. We're going to have a registry of partners to help the state, and then a fund to pay for some initial startup costs. In the event of a federal emergency, we can apply to have the funding that we expended on companion animals and pets and service animals refunded.
Okay.
And I have
Is it fully refunded?
It refunds, well, you're talking about the federal government. They're going to be looking for ways not to fund. And in fact, the plan kind of addresses that. I see we're kind of running short on time. They'll refund for reasonable costs. And I think the most reasonable way to get our costs reasonable is to start planning ahead. We have limited time.
Ounce of
but
prevention, pound of
it's a
cure. That makes
that's right.
sense, yeah.
Well, correct.
Well, all right. Well, listen.
Well,
Go ahead.
We're eager to get this moving forward since it does not take any money from our state budget. It's all going to come, these initial kind of starter costs are going to come from licensing. So we're eager to get this passed before the budget debate starts.
I hear you, but when people hear licensing, when you say licensing, people hear tax. So it's, right now, it's covered by the state. I mean, like I said, I've got 66% of my district are likely going to be pet owners. So if something that costs them more, here's what we'll do. You go, Ben Jones is here, and if you can kind of get him to makes a motion on 200, maybe we can work ourselves a deal here.
Well, thank you for your time, Senator, Representative. Appreciate it.
Meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You have a good day.
You too.